Welcome to Ken's Corner Podcast, Season 4.
Hi, everyone. This is Ken from Ken's Corner, and today we're with Randi Druzin. She's a journalist and author based out of Toronto. How are you today, Randi?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Okay. I'm okay. Are you been real busy with your holiday home lifestyle lately?
Oh, yes, there's a lot of shopping to do, a lot of baking, which I will never do, and a lot of decorations to put up.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I still have the cookies that I have to make inside my fridge right now. Maybe that would be the next thing I do.
I can give you my mailing address. You could send me a few.
That sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan.
I
Thank
can
you
hand them
so
out
much.
and say that I made them.
Fair enough. Straight from Ken's Corner to Randi Druzin. Thank you so much. We're going to go back in earlier in your lifetime, and let's talk about what led you. And did you always want to do what you do for a living?
Oh, yeah, I've wanted to be a writer since, grade 5 when I first had my creative writing lesson. I just loved it, and I thought, this is something I want to do. And that never changed, all through high school, university, and I ended up in journalism because I love writing.
Thank you. Let's talk about your early times. I think from what I see here, you have been involved in so many different outlets and publications. Wow, the National Post, CBC, New York Times, Globe and Mail. These are all in some of your notable times while you're at these outlets.
Well, what happened was in 1993, I moved to the Czech Republic and settled in Prague, where I lived for 5 years. And while I was there, I realized there was a real interest in Canada and the United States in what was going on there politically, in terms of arts and culture, as well as sports, of course. And so I just started pitching outlets around the world. And, I ended up stringing for quite a few of them. I wrote quite a few stories for the Globe, the Star, the New York Times. When the Czechs beat the Canadians in Nagano, I was in Prague and I filed on that for the New York Times and the Toronto Star. So this is how I ended up connecting with all these publications to start.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to walk over through your books. So you have four really good books. I know the first one I think is the one about women in sports. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. That came out, I think it was 2001. I remember writing it during the Sydney Games in 2000. So it came out shortly after that. And I have to tell you, if I were to write another book about women in sports now, it would be a completely different book because women have just made so much progress in so many ways in basketball, hockey, and in other sports too.
Yeah, you're so right there. They're very prominent on the sporting scene, that's for sure. And I enjoy every minute of it. Thank you so much. Well, you know what? I was never a Philadelphia Flyer fan, as you can see. I'm a Leaf fan,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of respect for Reggie Leach. I am an Ojibwe from Ojibwe Nation, and I know Reggie has a lot to do with the indigenous community. But can you tell me what it was like writing a book on a superstar like Reggie Leach?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I mean, as a fan, it was just wonderful for me to get all this behind the scenes information, what went on in the Flyers locker room when they were the Broad Street Bullies, how they spent their time off the ice, what the personalities were like. And I also found some really interesting tidbits about their game against the Russians and, some of the other things that we saw in headlines but didn't know more about. So I really enjoyed it. And of course, Reggie's a great guy. How could I ever say anything bad about someone who bought me dinner every time I met him?
Well, that's that would be amazing. And I know I did see a note on your latest book where he said that he's buying his copy. He's already
Yeah.
ordered it, I believe. So
I think it
it
was
was
more succinct. He just wrote, I want one, or I want that, or
that's
something. So
it.
I don't know
That's
if that's him saying, I'm going to purchase a copy, or him saying, you need to send me one. So
and maybe it's a trade-off for the dinners that he bought you.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, we're going to walk into your two latest books, Behind the Mask. I love the cover of that mask is iconic. And can you walk us through this first book on goalies that you have.
Yeah, the first one, Between the Pipes, that came out 10 years ago. And I did 12 goalies who I thought were the creme de la creme. You know, like I did the research. I picked my goalies in terms of Stanley Cups, Vezinas, and of course, just their impact on the game overall. So this is why you have a lot of original six goalies in there, like Johnny Bower. You also have some goalies that came around a few years later, a few decades later, like Bernie Perrant's in there. And you know, it ends with Martin Brodeur. It went up through Hasek, Patrick Roy, and then Martin Brodeur. But a lot of the goalies, half of them, I believe, are original six goalies. And so that, I think the demographic, the readership for that was a little bit older than the readership might be for the current book, which focuses more on contemporary goalies or goalies who played recently in the last 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, that's why Carey Price, I guess, is on the front of that one.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I like that picture for several reasons. One is because everyone recognizes Carey Price. So I thought, you know, someone walking by that in a bookstore might stop and go, oh, hey, I know that guy. I recognize that goalie. And, you know, he had his mask back on his head, which is perfect for a book called Behind the Mask, I thought. So I really pushed. Like I had a lot of conversations with my publisher about that photo, and I really pushed for it. And I was glad to see it as the photo they chose.
When did it get released, your latest book?
The hardcover came out last year around this time, and the paperback just came out. Because I mean, the hardcover was, I thought it was a great book. My only concern is it may have been a bit too costly for Canadians and even Americans who are now worried about the bottom dollar in these economic times. So the paperback is $10 cheaper. So I'm quite happy about that.
That's very good.
And they're lighter. They're lighter to carry around to different events. So I'm happy about that too.
That makes a lot of sense. Can you
Absolutely.
let us know where we could find one of your amazing books?
Well, it's pretty much everywhere. I mean, you can find it in bookstores, you know, Barnes and Noble in the States, Indigo in Canada, and of course, online, you know, Amazon, Indigo, all the retailers that are online. The only thing I would like to emphasize is that Amazon seems to have a problem keeping up with the orders, like with the, so they take their time replenishing the stock. And it's not great just before Christmas when you see a little note say, order now, it'll come on December 29th, you know. So I know my publisher's working with them to get them to replenish their supplies faster. We'll see how that goes. But there are the books available elsewhere.
Thank you. How does it feel to have two best-selling books?
Oh, it feels great. I mean, in all fairness, I mean, Reggie Leach was a bestseller, but I think that's mostly because of Reggie. The last goalie book became a bestseller because I think, I mean, it's hockey and it's Canada. So I feel like I could have written as a 4-year-old and still put out a best-selling book. But it feels great. I mean, this is my ambition was always to be a writer, and writing about hockey is perfect for me. It's something I'm passionate about and something that's fun to write about.
Is there another book in your near future?
You know, that's like asking a woman who's just given birth when she's going to get pregnant again. So my answer to that is probably one day, but I need a little bit of time to recover. I mean, the writing process is grueling. And at one point I thought once you've done that and the book is out, your work is done. But I was wrong because there's publicity and promotions which take up a lot of time and energy. So I think once this hockey season ends, I might take 6 or 7 months to do absolutely nothing and then think about another book.
And are you busy doing anything else in your life right now? Any other work?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I work in CBC television news, and as you know, I work in international and national news, and there's no shortage of stories now. You know, with the recent election of Donald Trump and political turmoil in Canada, I'm sure that will keep me busy for a while. And you know, I'd have a marketing company that I run on the side, like doing content marketing for various companies. So I do have a lot going on, but for me, my book is always, my writing is the thing I'm most passionate about. So these books are what I'm most passionate about. Unfortunately, they don't pay the bills, so I have to do I have to do other work as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Social media, where is your social media outlets? How can your fans find you to take a look at Randi Druzin?
Well, I do have a Twitter feed, which I'm ashamed to admit has been fairly inactive. But I have to change that in the new year. One of my New Year's resolutions is to get more active on Twitter, or X as it's now called. But I do have a website that's dedicated specifically to my sports writing. It's www.randy.ca. Randy with an I. Randy with an I. People are always saying it Randy with a Y, which I understand, but to find me, you have to put Randy with an I.ca. And I have information about my books, my bio, and I also have I have one blog post up now with Olaf Kolzig, an interview I did with him, and I'm going to be putting some others up in the new year.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. I am from that era of Olaf Kolzig. Can you tell me a little bit about your blog with him?
Well, I had the blog stems from the interview I did with him when I was working on this book, because he has experience training Carey Price, not in the NHL, but he's worked with Price. He has high praise for Price, and he told me some really interesting anecdotes, including one where Price just said to him after a training session, "Hey, like, you want to just drop the gloves and go and see what happens?" So they did. I guess they were wrestling on the ice, and I think the term Olaf used with me, Oli used with me, was I taught him, about old man strength. So that leads me to believe he may have had the upper hand, but I didn't ask for details.
That's amazing. Olaf was a great goaltender. He seemed to always show up against my Toronto Maple Leafs. So
yes, my Leafs too. I feel your pain. I get it.
You're a Leaf fan as well.
Oh yes, yeah. I think at the end of the book, I made a comment there saying, or it says, it's a little bio of me, and it says Randy lives in Toronto with millions of other long-suffering Leafs fans, and she has the psychological scars to prove it, which is absolutely true. I feel like every playoff I get triggered because it reminds me of every other playoff disappointment.
Yeah, you're so right there. I was born the last time the Leafs won the Stanley Cup, and my brother says I might have to pass away for him to win again. So
honestly, it's looking well. Every year we say this is the year, so
that's right.
I feel like I'm not going to go there, but I am a little more hopeful this season than I was last season. I think their goaltending's improved, and I think they're a little tougher now. So, but I mean, the playoffs are a completely different season. So we'll have to see if the Leafs are built for the postseason.
Yeah. What are you thinking of our new coach, Craig Berube?
I think he's good. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I get the sense from talking to people that he's tough with them in the dressing room, which I think is good. And the players seem to be responding to him. Like, they're clearly playing for him. They haven't given up on him. And I feel like second half of the season, things will start to gel even more than they are right now. That's my hope anyway, but I'm confident in him. And I like the fact that we have two goaltenders now who can do it, get the job done.
Yeah, Anthony Stolaire's on the injury list for a few weeks. So Joseph, what would be
he was injured before, and Stolar's filled in for him quite well. So I think having two is a much better situation to be in.
Yes. I only have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Since we're talking hockey, can you talk a little bit, if you have any knowledge, on the Toronto Scepters of the PWHL?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, last year I went to see one of their games at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, and I was there the night after the Leafs had played the Flyers in the same arena. And I think attendance was higher for the PWHL game, and that speaks volumes. Also, when I was sitting there, I looked in the crowd and I saw a lot of little girls wearing their hockey jerseys with their teammates, waving flags. And I just thought, you know what? I think this future is going to make it. I think this league is going to make it. I think it has a rosy future because there's a grassroots support among women and girls that may not have been there, even 10 or 20 years ago. Certainly when I was growing up playing hockey, I was something of a freak. There were very few females playing hockey, and now you see little girls all the time, with their sticks and skates, and the little boys on their team don't think anything of it. There's nothing unusual about it. In fact, I coach my nephew's hockey team, a group of 8-year-olds. There's girls and boys on the same line. The 3 coaches are women, and no one thinks anything of it, which is great because we know that 30 years ago that wouldn't have been the case.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for that. My last couple of questions here, it's a little off topic, but you have a love for Will Ferrell and Slurpees. Can you explain it?
I don't know. I have this weird, like, the first few times I saw Will Ferrell, I thought, this is idiotic. But then you know what? The more I watched, the more he grew on me. And I think I missed the original skit on SNL, the cowbell, but someone sent it to me, I think about a year or 2 years ago. And I was like, okay, now I love Will Ferrell because that skit had me laughing for days. And he's just great. He's just a great comedian. And he kind of like gets close. He's silly, but not stupid. He gets very close to stupid, but doesn't go there. You know,
Yeah.
like Talladega Nights, I think is one of my favorite comedies of all time. Ricky
Yeah, that's a
Bobby.
really good one. You're right.
Yeah.
And Slurpees?
Oh, Slurpees, because I have relatives in Winnipeg. And I think Winnipeg is recognized as the unofficial Slurpee capital of North America. I think they
Oh,
drink more Slurpees per capita than any other city. I think. Anyway, so my cousins got me interested in Slurpees. And now when I'm in Winnipeg, I always have to go to a 7-Eleven, which is odd because I never go to 7-Eleven here at home in Toronto. I'm always going to Winnipeg for a Coke Slurpee.
well, they do have the Buffalo Bills of the CFL, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That
Yes.
so well get all the way and lose 5 years in a row, I think. But
Yeah.
okay,
They're
three.
big fans. They're big football fans in Western Canada.
As am I. I'm an Argo diehard. Paul is a personal friend of mine. I met in the press
Oh
box.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
know
know
he's a big CFL guy as well.
he is. He is. Thank you so much, Randy, for your time here tonight.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Happy holidays. My
Thank
name.
you. Same to you.
Thank you so much. My name's Ken. I'm here on Ken's Corner with journalist and author Randy Druzin.
And Will Ferrell lover.
And Will Ferrell lover. That's an and Slurpees. Don't
That
forget
too.
the
That
Slurpees.
too.
I won't forget that now. You have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.